And with us in the studio, we have Magdalena Sobkowiak-Czarnecka, State Undersecretary, Office of the Polish Prime Minister. Thank you very much for joining us today.
That's me. Thank you for having me here.
So, we talked about election fatigue, because in Poland we had recently parliamentary elections, then we had local elections. So do you think this will impact the turnout when it comes to European Parliament elections?
Unfortunately, I think it will. I think what happened in the autumn, that we had absolutely phenomenal result of the turnout after many also actions. I was one of the authors of the action Women Go Vote, and I think it was quite successful if you put it on the turnout of women for these elections. But we saw it during local elections, and traditionally on European elections we have lower turnout here in Poland. It was two times, it was about 24%. In last elections in 2019 it was almost 50%. But I think the situation was different. It was a kind of a chance for a change of the result in Poland, that there were high hopes to win with law and justice. Now I see that lots of Poles, they think that already in half of October they fixed everything, there's a new government, and they don't feel obliged to take part in the elections. Also, I can see it during the meetings with voters, even during those high-ranked meetings like with Prime Minister Donald Tusk or with Jarosław Kaczyński. We see that the number of people who are coming for the meetings, for the gatherings, is much lower than normally it is before the elections. So I don't have high hopes, but I have to tell you that Europe has really high hopes about us. When I'm in the European Parliament, I was asked a few times if we can count on Poland that there will be a high turnout during those European elections, because those elections are really important. I know that you will ask for sure the question why, and normally before every elections we are saying that every elections are very important, but those are really important.
Don, you want to ask the question?
That's it. My job's real easy now. Well, no, I do obviously want to ask you why. Actually, you know, if we look at the issues, what are the most important issues in this election, and why is it so important that Poles turn out and vote in these particular elections? What is at stake?
For the first time after Second World War, we have war actual here in Europe. It's just next door in Ukraine. It's coming closer and closer to us. It's the time when we have to be together, and I think that the European Parliament should be a place where we can have actual debate, but very easy decisions. And what we see during those 5 years, that there are many new populism parties in Europe, also in Poland, which are anti-EU, which are very populistic, which are far right or far left. There is some research saying that in the next term of European Parliament, we can have the highest number ever of such representatives in the European Parliament. And during 20 years of Poland in European Parliament, I think the European Parliament was quite stable. Whatever the Commission was putting on the table, there was this big coalition, EPP, Socialists, and it was coming through the European Parliament. Now we are facing the risk that there will be some trouble in the European Parliament, and we cannot afford for this risk.
But it might happen, right? Because we see the right-wing parties, we see far-right parties, and they're gaining momentum.
Yes.
But will they gain a significant amount of momentum?
If they unite, it might be significant.
But will they unite?
That's the question for our guests. Do you think they will unite?
I don't think so, that they will be so united as, for example, EPP is. But I think that we can get much trouble if with having many unstable discussion in the European Parliament. I think one of the reasons it's also the flow of fake news that we have here in Europe, and we have really great influence of Russia. In the reports that we are getting, we see that in Poland, those influences of Russia on the fake news and on social media, they are in the areas of climate, Ukraine, migration, and LGBT rights. So can you imagine more polarizing issues in Poland? They are not, but they are mostly influenced by our neighbors from the east, and this influence, it's everywhere in Europe, and we can see the result after the European elections. So even if you think that Brussels is somewhere there, also remember that 90% of law that we have here in Poland, it's coming from Brussels. At the end of the day, I think that I was also a Brussels correspondent for the news for the TVP also, and I think that there has been done much of harm and fake news, saying that the MPs they are only getting money. It's kind of retirement in the European Parliament. In fact, they are very influential.
But you know, this is the main argument for people who do not want to vote.
It is.
So I would think that politicians here in Poland, for example, would do something about it. But it seems that when it comes to their campaigns, it's really about them. And who, you know, one party is hitting at the other party. It's not really about the issues. Would you agree? Or
I think 2019 was crucial because that was the first European campaign in Poland that wasn't about the European subjects, but it was about internal subject. This campaign, I think, is more about the European subjects because of the geopolitical situation. We have Ukraine and we have United States, that we will see who will be in the White House after November. But I think, yes, you are right that we are only discussing about how much that they will earn, but we are not discussing about the actual law which is coming into force because of the decision of the European Parliament. Of course, because and that's auto-promotion for 3 seconds, I'm responsible in the new government for Polish presidency in European Council, and Poland will have presidency from the from 1st of January 2025. We will have some influence what is going on, but in the European Council. And if we want to have some influence what is going on in the European Parliament, then please go vote. Poland is one of the biggest countries in the EU, and our representation in the European Parliament is one of the biggest. And if you want to say that something wrong is going on in the European Parliament, there's only one moment, 5 seconds when you can actually influence on what's going on there. After the elections, for 5 years, nothing will happen. You cannot change the situation in the European Parliament.
That is indeed true. The U.S. elections, they'll resolve themselves. I think as far as security and defense is concerned, I don't see a very big difference between most of the candidates running. I think that's one of the issues that unites us. Other issues...
You're saying here in Poland?
Yeah.
I think Confederacja is the one to have the other...
But it won't have a huge impact on during these elections. But also migration is also a change, I think. It's also a topic issue that unites both of the biggest parties here in Poland. And then we have Green Deal.
And of course, and that's also one of things that unites now all the parties. But you have to know that at the end of the day, there were plenty of situations when two main parties like Law and Justice and Civic Platform, they were voting in the same way in the European Parliament. This is how it works in the European Parliament. You think about the interest of your country, not only the interest of your party. So you're absolutely right.
And so is that polarizing enough to get people to go out and take time to go stand in line and cast a ballot, right? Because that's how politics works, is it not? I mean, you have to tell people there is a reason they need to get out there, and perhaps just telling them that reason is enough is simply insufficient.
I think you're right. I think you're right here, and also I think polls, but that's the issue in the whole Europe. In the whole Europe, you don't see not a high turnout of the European elections. And I think there was an idea a few years ago to have the list which is pan-European list. So you don't vote only for the candidates from your country, but there's a list, one list all over Europe in different fractions. Maybe that will be one of the ways. But I don't want to speculate here. It's not the opinion of the government, but because I'm trying to find a way how to make people more interested about Brussels. Because at the end of the day, the water that you drink and how you open the bottle, it's this decision which was made in Brussels. Roads that we go, there are plenty of things in every area of our life where decisions which were made in Brussels, they influence us every single day. And at the end of the day, in the Polish Parliament, I think about 70 or 80% of laws that they are voted in the Polish Parliament, they are just transferred from the directives from the European Parliament and from the Commission. So at the end of the day, you cannot change it in the Polish Parliament because they are starting to grow and they are shaped in the European Parliament.
We've been talking a lot about turnout here for the last 3 hours and here in this discussion. Why is turnout so important? I mean, at the end of the day, what is it, 54, I believe we are going to have representatives elected to the European Parliament this year. If turnout's low, if turnout's 40%, we're still going to have 54 representatives elected.
But if you go vote, then you can influence who will be in this group of
Right.
54, and also think who will go vote when you are not going to vote. And is it somebody who will vote for your candidate, or is it somebody who will vote for the opposition candidate?
Well, right. So isn't that more of along a party line message to get out there, so that the party that gets out the vote the best is going to have the best chances to have more representatives elected?
That is like in every elections, somebody who will get most of the votes has the biggest impact, biggest influence. But if you don't want to regret, if you don't want to just stare at the European Parliament saying, oh, why we have bottles like this or roads like this and so on and so forth, go and vote. That's the easiest solution.
Well, that's the message of this interview. Go and vote. Magdalena Sobkowiak-Czarnecka, State Undersecretary, Office of the Polish Prime Minister. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me here.